people to 500, maybe 600 now. About 600 people in about 7 or 8 years. I'm using round numbers here. And so they've done it all before. So basically what you get is a 3 to 4 day hands-on workshop with the entire executive team of Infusionsoft. So if any of you have done any planning or coaching sort of work, strategic work before, then the difference between what I've done that way and this is that these guys have screwed up every way known to man and they've done it. Whereas I find coaches are great, but often the coach is telling you about things they've seen other people do, not things they've done themselves. And it's a very interesting difference. So one of the things that stood out for me, and I'm standing in the way, I'm sorry, was not only did we get the whole executive team, so particularly Clayton Mars, CEO, and Scott Martin, they were the founders, so they were there when it was 3 guys in a garage, literally. So they talked about the days, right down to their cash flow problems, from then right through to now, where they've just done their 3rd, I think, round of VC funding. So they talked us through all of that. That sort of insight you can't get really anywhere else. I've tried, but it's very hard to get. Then they delivered the specialists, so the VPs of each of those areas, and they were talking about it from a strategic building and business perspective, but right down to this is the performance review we use. This is the way we motivate our staff. This is like, it was every inch of that. And we got given a book, which I'm happy for you guys to just take and talking, of samples of actually their performance reviews and the things they use. There's an application for VC funding in there. So they gave us the actual information. They also gave us quietly some time with product people, which was awesome. So for a hopeless user like me, I just got a guy to help me get straight on a few things. And out of that time, you've got a CEO who, like I say, was in the midst of his latest VC funding, and out of the 3.5 days, he was there for 2 full days of that. I mean, that alone's probably, I don't know, he's probably $800 to $1,000 an hour worth. I mean, it's serious access, which was really, really amazing. In terms of how it worked, we had to do some homework before we went. So they sent us that book, that binder, and a book called Beyond Entrepreneurship, which is Jim Collins. Those of you might know Good to Great or Built to Last, same thing. And there's a particular chapter in there talking about strategy and mission. And I've got a copy, I'm happy to bring it next time if anybody wants to borrow it. They made you read certain chapters and then they made you workshop your values before you went. In part, like anything, so that you messed it up, so that when you went, you'd already done the messing up the first go at the values, so that when you were there, you get it right the second time. Then, like I say, we were sort of 3 days in headquarters. Most of it was on culture, so building a culture in your business, a tangible culture, and strategic planning, but they do spend half a day on funding and capital. So they do spend half a day on how they went from 50K on the credit card to fund the business, to a small business loan, to their first investor, basically Clay answered any question we had about any of that. What did you offer them? What did you get paid back? When? How long? All that sort of thing. So open book sort of doesn't come close to describing how open they were with us. It was really powerful. They then, all the way through it, would break out into sessions so that you then workshop it. So generally, like I say, it was 2 people from each business. Some of them had 3. An eclectic bunch. If you read up there was a truly eclectic bunch of businesses, which is really powerful. We had guys there that just got 50 million from the market to build a new app. Didn't know what to spend it on. There was a lot of eye rolling at some points. Just like, seriously, dude, easy, give me the money. They were really young and keen, but it was a broad range, so there was probably 25-year-olds to 60-year-olds. So it's a really interesting mix, which is powerful. That's actually when you learn the most, because I had people, it was set up much like this, and I had people calling me on stuff the whole time. Yeah, but why is it like that? Why do you have to do that? Why do you so? Because they don't know anything about our market particularly. I think we probably got slightly more value than the others because they didn't know. So they just go, no, you have to justify that. Why would you do it that way? So it's really powerful. And they're all senior people, so they're small business owners. They all know their stuff. We then did a tour in Infusionsoft headquarters, which everybody needs to do at some point. That actually was the inspiration for me going, was seeing how they do it. I've never seen as tangible a culture as in that building. I've had mates that have gone to Google and done a tour there, and to be frank, when I described what I saw in Infusionsoft versus what they did at Google, I think Infusionsoft is more real. The whole Google culture thing is great, but there's a whole lot of packaging that goes into that. It's as much about what the customers think as it is about what the staff think. So we've debated that over a few wines. And then, so then ongoing, we've had a Facebook group with this crew of people, and also with everybody that's gone through Elite Forum. So that's all part of what you get as part of that. And then, I just missed Icon, but would have been attending the Elite Forum events as well. So they sort of are building more and more, because they've had so many people now say, this is awesome, I want more, which is always how it happens when you deliver a program that adds value. So they're building more and more of them. The next one, sir. Oh, sorry, just before I go on. They gave us all 12 business books each. So all of the books that they believe inspire the way they do business. But interestingly, what they've done is somebody like Jim Collins, they actually got into the business. And so they brought him in and said, right, you said this in your book. That's well and good, but that's academic. How do I do it when I have a meeting with my team? How do I do it when I'm trying to fire somebody? So you're getting sort of access to all of that smarts too. So there are a number of times when Clay was quoting a conversation with somebody like Jim Collins. So, we can only read the books, whereas he's actually spoken to the guy and sort of managed to extract the real value, which was very cool. So then in terms of what we covered, can I have the next one, sir? This is the secret sauce. So it actually is as complicated as it looks. What they get you to start with is your core values. And your core values, has anybody worked in a corporate, like a big bank or a... Okay. So we all know what those values are, right? They're meaningless, long, nobody remembers them, you don't refer to them again, they get shoved in the drawer. These ones, they force you to make them like you're describing a human being. So they're characteristics rather than corporate values. The word profit never appears, the word shareholders never appear. It's like describing a mate. It's like
describing their corporate as a human.
Correct. And in fact, they would say that every human being has about 40 values. And what they're picking is the 5 to 10 that are going to be consistent across every hire. So
across every
hire. Every person that works there either has those or is fired. And in fact, when they hire them for orientation, they do, it's quite long, I think it's 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks or something for the orientation. At the end of it, they offer them $5,000 to leave. So the point being, either you love it and go, woohoo, I want to be an Infusionsoft guru, or you go, yeah, I'll just take the money and run. They've had one person do that in that time. 2, is it?
Yeah. Was it you, Christine?
You just went through the process to get the $5,000.
Oh, get your training.
So it's the core values is really telling you. You'll see, I'll show you what ours ended up being after this process, and it is quite different to what you're used to, and it literally is something that you then actually measure. So a performance review, horrible things that they are, ends up being half of it to values. You are just saying, yes, you have gone well against these or not. So it's not the usual, did you do your task, did you? It's all down to values. And it means you can performance manage somebody. I had somebody recently that had let something drop, and one of our values it clearly didn't meet. And he didn't question it. When I said, look, it doesn't meet our values, yeah, fair enough, Peter. Whereas normally there's often a debate with those things when they're trying to justify. It changes that conversation. So that's the first thing you do. Then, to be frank, the hardest bit is this purpose. So that's why you exist, meaning why did you start the business you're in? So what really caused you to start it? What lights your fire? What's the reason that, in fact, you're different to... we've got how many advisors in this room, financial advisors? We're not all the same. We don't approach this the same way. We didn't get into businesses for the same reason. So it's really getting that down. That's a good half day, just this, and they really drill you. And you have to then almost present to others in the room, and they go, that's not a characteristic, why did you say that? No, but why? So they kept on asking you to justify each thing, and it digs down to the bottom level. I wouldn't say this is for the faint-hearted, to be fair. It's not aggressive, but it's inward-looking. So you've got to be ready to be pretty honest with the group. Then you get onto the fun stuff, which is world domination, which is the BHAG. And so I don't know whether you guys have all seen, but they've got their mission document that's painted on the wall. That's their Everest mission. If you were to just Google that, Infusionsoft Everest mission, you'll see they've got a whole sort of couple of pages on the website that talk about it, and it's what they're all working towards in the next 3 to 5 years. It's about aligning your team. So it's about saying, well, okay, we've got the right people and they broadly have the same beliefs as we do. Let's set them on a mission. And so that mission is singular and measurable. We found that once this was where we pivoted, this was actually where we changed what we were doing in our business, and it made this much easier because we know exactly what we want to get done in that time frame. So it's something that, in fact, the mission is something that you tell every partner you ever meet with, every new person that comes and asks you about your business, like, this is all who we are and what we do. And as part of that, you work out, and this is an interesting, if you've ever done a SWOT analysis, I don't know if you guys have done it. This is just a different way of doing it. So they talk about strengths you can leverage, so things you already have you can leverage to get your mission done, or strengths you need to develop, meaning weaknesses. But it gives you a little list of things we need to focus on. This, strengths to leverage, you need to be the best at, whereas strengths to develop, you just need to be better at. So it's an interesting strategic discussion within, the team, working out how you're going to do that. And that helps you then work out your strategic planning. So this is like they say, 3 to 5 years. I would say 3. I think 5 years is too long for anybody. I can't even remember where I was 5 years ago. So
for a small business.
Attention span, no chance yet. And in current markets and crazy. So 3 years, but it really, this is when all the magic happens. And in fact, you come away broadly from Elite Forum with those penciled in, I would call them. And then they tell you how they get it done. So a lot of us would have done planning, or we set goals at the beginning of the year, and yay, I'm going to lose weight, or yay, I'm going to go to the gym, and then nothing happens. And so their view is actually the anally retentive planning is where it all happens. And so they talk with you about meeting cycles, how to do planning. They only let you have 3 to 5 projects a year. That's it, strategic projects. Now, I don't know how many you guys have on your list. We had like 40. Oh, these are all the projects. And they just shook their heads. You're never going to get this done. Oh, but you're never going to get them done. Pick 5. So that caused a massive debate. So that's when I knew at that moment we were in the right place, because my business partner, who's also my dad, and I did not have a stand-up argument, but there was that fighting for your own project thing going on. Right? Absolutely. Well, but just convincing each other, and we got it down to 5, but I tell you, there was some refereeing that had to happen. Definitely.
Did everyone agree in the end?
Sorry?
Did everyone agree in the end?
Yeah, they won't let you leave till you do.
No, I mean, on your team.
Yes. Yeah. Our view was we didn't get back on the plane until we did. So over dinner that night we continued, to our poor spouse's detriment, to discuss the project. So, I mean, this is quite complicated, but basically it's just, like I said, getting really anal about the key projects, how you're going to deliver them, all the individual steps. So each project, over each quarter, will have a mini project to get that next step done. You list at the beginning of the quarter all of the steps required, you allocate them to somebody, and you set a date. I mean, we've already messed that up in the first quarter. We're practicing. Once again, set far too many things for the quarter. Didn't get to them all. So this quarter, we've cut them all down. So that was really, really powerful. And then they shared with us the way they sort of then measure. And, you don't improve what you don't measure is very true in their business. Anything worth improving, they measure. All sorts of batshit crazy things they were measuring. So, including to the number of cereal boxes the team were using in their cereal bar. So, that's sort of that's an interesting sort of model. I think lots of us will measure profit and cash flow. That's after the fact. You're actually measuring something that's already done. So what they're focusing on is early indicators that you can measure, so you can start steering the ship rather than going, oh, I ran into that wall. When you first learn how to drive. The other interesting one that we're still struggling with, but getting some help from the guys, is each team member will only have 3 core things they're responsible for in their job. Only 3. So that may be number of calls in customer service, it may be number of sales, and they've all got to be measurable. So every one of the big 3 is measurable, and then anything other than that is upside. What's interesting though is when you start doing this, they get more done, because they can knock the crap out that they're filling their time with that actually isn't on mission. So it's hard, and it's against all our natures because job descriptions are like 40 pages long and lots of tasks, but it's 3. The CEO has them too. Everybody in Infusionsoft has 3. So it's an interesting, well, I won't say we're perfect, we're still struggling. Next one, sir.
Well, with that, if it's only 3,
yes,
then from that say, right, you can then, this will take up 60% of your time, leaving 40%
for strategic projects. So the strategies you come up with, they're all about sort of the bigger things you need built or developed or new directions. So that, I mean, one of their strategic projects one year was about the campaign builder being hard to use. Because they got that feedback and they went, clearly that's not a day-to-day thing, we've got to invest a whole lot of time and energy into it. That was one of their projects. So it sort of separates the strategic from the day-to-day operation. So then, some interesting things that came out. This happy equation is a bit contrary to every publicly listed company in the world. They start with employees, then they go to customers, then they go to shareholders. And so everything they do trickles top down.
They put employees above customers.
Yep. So it's an interesting model, and in fact, when you think about it, a happy employee then speaks to the customers with far more glee and enjoyment, and then that customer will deliver more profit because they're happier to be around and they want to buy more, and that delivers to shareholders. So, and in fact, they would argue that the shareholders and the whole profit thing is just, it's a way of keeping score. That's it. And I mean, this is a business that, like I say, has got their 3rd VC round of funding. Now, normally in IT land, by that point, your business will have been completely bastardised because the VC guys will have come in and done their investment banking thing and just ruined the culture. I mean, that's not unusual in that world, whereas they've held on to that and their investors know that. So their investors are quite distant from the business. They're given goals they've got to deliver on, and as long as they deliver, hands off. So it's an interesting, it's a lot of trust for some guys with some big bags of money to give them. So that was an interesting little nuance. I quizzed him a lot with Clayton on that because clearly he's the man between the money and the business, and he represents at the board level, and he said, there's been a handful of times when they've got pushback, but it's more about a misunderstanding, that they don't understand why they're doing something. That's about it. Because they've got the mission, so they know what they're trying to achieve.
What about if your shareholders are kind of the employees? There's only 3 of us, and 2 are directors, and then there's me.
Well, but that's still, so that's really saying happy employees make happy customers make profit for you guys. It's much the same thing, because that's what shareholders are interested in, really. This BHAG thing is really interesting. So when you set your mission, you go, whoa, what we're going to do is, in this many years, we went with a BHAG and we multiplied it by 5 by the time we left. So they're not interested in, gee, I want 2% growth. They want world domination. That's why they want you to go. But they get you to the BHAG, and then they get you to workshop what your org chart will look like when you get to that point. And that's really interesting because that makes it real. We would need how many staff? I think we were at 42 staff or something. Okay, that's a different business than we were thinking. So that was a really, if nothing else, this is a really interesting process for planning, because it just suddenly, and particularly as, we did our full chart, and one of the VPs came up and said, HR, IT, you've got some things missing. Oh, yeah, fair point. So that's quite an interesting process. They hire, in the orientation, it's all about values when they're doing it for new staff. When they're doing training, it's brought back to values, and they fire to the values, and they do that quickly. So they hire fast and fire fast, actually. So it's just that their hiring process it starts with their website. So you can go onto their website and you'll see their values, you'll see videos from their team. So people who apply are well ahead from what we get. When we get somebody applying, they don't even know our business name. So that was really clever. Depending on whether you're interested in finance, it was less valuable to us, or don't need funding at this point. We've got a bank loan, but that's about it. Clayton kept on going back to the fact that if you need funding, just get more sales. He said finance, whether it's by capital or a bank, is the last option, and it can change your business. So there was a lot of debate about that in the room, but I've never heard somebody actually describe it that way before, and I think it's valid. If somebody's thinking, it will all be fixed if we can just get $1 million into the business, just sell some more stuff. And this one is about your mission. So I learnt this last year. So I did a course October 2013, And as part of it, you had to write a book, or you meant to. And minimum 30,000 words. I wrote about 60,000, but the way I did it was I declared it to every human being I encountered. In the next month, I'm writing 30,000 words. In the next month, I'm writing, and it works because everybody knows, and so every time you see them, they ask you, how's the book going? Didn't write any words this week. So Clade's a big believer in doing that, so they publish all of their goals and all their mission. It's on the wall, it's on the website. They declare it to anybody, and so we've done the same. When I show you our mission diagram, it's the size of actually this screen in our foyer. So it's just sharing it with everybody. Can I have another one, please? So then what happened for us? This is our mission.
Oh, so cute.
So it is, isn't it? It is. So our purpose, to empower people to anticipate and manage their money matters. Now, that may sound like any financial advisor, but the difference is we use the word empower, meaning education and inspiration. So we're moving away from advice, where I sit and I write a formal document, and we're turning it into Michelle Bridges. So Michelle Bridges for money. It's a simple way to describe it. So that's our purpose. And then our mission for the next 3 years is to build the first tribe of Australians actively improving their financial wellbeing. And we want 5,000 members in 3 years. We worked out that from the current size, where we've got 7,000 clients, we reckon really only 50 people actually actively getting on top of their money stuff. We have to nag everybody else, whereas there's those 50 that are like calling you and want to do things. So that's our definition of a tribe member. We realised we need probably about 60,000 clients in 3 years to deliver 5,000 tribe members. So it's not quite tenfold in 3 years, but it's close. These are the values. So you can see each of those are personality traits that you might describe someone with. We did that as a workshop, and if anybody's keen to do that, I can talk you through how they encourage you to do that. It's literally everybody gets sticky notes, and you just write things down, and then you align them together. So somebody, I think this is one of our values, and you start aligning them. And interestingly, we did it when we were away, just the two of us, and what the team came up with without our input was almost identical, which is a good test. Goodness. And then you can see there our strengths to leverage and our strengths to develop. So like I say, it's actually about that big on the entrance to the foyer. And the next one was then what we came up with when we did our org chart. So if I was to point to what we have now, you have me, MD, we have somebody doing this network thing here, and we have two guides, and we have one paraplanner, and we have one admin support. So as we were building that, it was almost rolls on individual stickies, and you're getting all of these stickies under each other. And so it's that to deliver what we're going is a much bigger business. We're doing event management, we're heavily into graphic design and comms, we're doing content marketing, we're doing, it's a big different business. So that then changed, by doing that then changed actually what our strategic projects were, because we realised if this is what we have in 2017, we need to have a third of that in a year and 2/3 of that in 2 years. So it changes the dynamic.
And are you clear in, okay, what's the next person I'm going to hire? If you've got to have all those people, well, I'm going to hire.
Yeah.
Have you even got down to that?
Awesome pickup. So what we've done is, no, when we first came back we didn't. What we've realised is, in fact, I am doing all of the others currently.
Yeah.
So we're just picking them off as natural replacements for me. I'm currently the financial advisor. So the next hire is an advisor, so I'm freed up from doing client work. And we're going to do a fair bit of outsourcing. So actually the resources I'll have here will have somebody who's just coordinating outsourcing facilities. We use 99 Designs for graphics. That vision thing was 99 Designs.
Yeah, wow, that's good.
$400 or something.
Yeah.
So, and he got it. It was fabulous. It's really exciting. So yeah, we're still working on that because it's like, do I spend it on the marketing guy on the?
Yeah.
So we're still working on it, but exciting. What have I got next? Oh, so in terms of who it's for, these are what they say are the 7 stages of small business. And would you believe this technically is a small business? It's the same here. Ridiculous. But they are saying that basically the elite forum is when you're sitting here or beyond, but here. So you've sort of gotten your head around sales, so you sort of know how to sell your product broadly if you do it. So not if your team does, but if you do it. you've sort of worked out where you might be able to market to, but this is what you haven't done. You haven't set the vision, which means it's hard to hire, because every time you hire, you've got to retrain, and are they the right person? And I'm sure we've all been through that pain of hiring people, and it's tough. So it's sort of in this range where we're sort of at the top end of that. We're about $1 million in turnover, but we've only got 7 staff. So it's a bit liquid, but that's where they're going to approve you to attend or not. If you were too small, they wouldn't suggest you come, because you need to nail this stuff. You need to get the sales right, you need to get your marketing right. So there were some guys there who were sitting at about here. There was a engineering business that was sitting about here, but had never done either of these. Father and son, dad's old business, like it was really interesting, but to their credit, were champions. They did really well. Hard, nearly tears at one point, but they got there. So that's just sort of, it's about here. So if you are at that sort of level, second to none the best exercise we've done, in part because it's focused attention. So you're there with your director counterpart, spending 4 days on your business and with people who have done it before and are smarter than you. So it's really valuable.
Can I say something about Peita?
Yes.
One of the things that absolutely fascinates me about Elite Forum is the whole reason that it came about. Do you want to speak to that?
No, you can.
So they worked out, like, the core mission of Infusionsoft is to help small businesses succeed. They say it over and over again, and they actually realised that once you get to this point, it's not
failure
actually
rate.
Systems and automations that you need. It's not the software you need anymore. You need the insight, and they can actually deliver that as well.
Yeah.
So it's sort of the yin to the yang of the software, and together you can get into the.
So and actually that's a valid point. So here, these numbers here, you might not be able to read that. The numbers of businesses in America. So it's not 1/3 to there. It's 1/30th make it to over $1 million. And it would be similar here in terms of proportions. And this is the point in the work I did when I was in my investment banking days. This is the point where generally you head south.
Yeah.
So you get this far and I don't want to stop. So they revert back to a solid entrepreneur sort of thing. So that and this is a bit black and white, and it's not that black and white. But interestingly, the discussion that instantly came up was everybody in that room was in a business who uses Infusionsoft. As you head up here, you're going to get too big for Infusionsoft.
But
so
you said you've got there that, let's say, so
this is 100 staff or
450 staff,
yeah.
$100 million, they still consider it a small business.
We do too here. The government does.
I thought it was a million at that level.
No, it's 500 staff. It's around that. It's still technically a small business.
20 mil is small business by PwC.
Yeah. But in terms of some of the government grants, like you still qualify when you're sitting at 400 staff, Because really, in Australia, you go from that to CBA. We don't actually have a lot of mediums there's a far smaller proportion of mediums in this country than overseas. So that's all I've got. That's good. And on the next slide, if you would like the slides, if you would like to ask any questions, more information, ask me anything you like, then any of those methods, or just give me a card and I'll flick you an email.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, any specific questions?
So far, so that Elite Forum was more, from what I can see, is that it's very macro based on your business. Like it's all around where you're heading.
Yeah, it starts that way, but actually, and feel free to dig through this later if you want to fold up.
Sure.
It literally is down to what is the job spec for a staff member.
Okay.
What's the performance? So they start there, but they dive deep sort of fast.
So they sort of put the magnifying glass on each particular operation.
Yeah.
Over 4 days, this all happens.
Well, so the start of it happens, and then you have a massive to-do list.
Yeah.
Right. So there's an evolution to where you take that and what you choose to focus on. So for us, we had to nail that vision stuff because while it's in my head, it wasn't in the staff's.
Yeah.
So we really needed to get
They
it.
give you strategies on communicating to your staff.
Yeah. And you witness some of their meetings, and they've got stand-up monthly meetings and weekly meetings, and so they show you all of that. It's very American, so I would say, and I say that with great love, but there is lots of kumbaya. So, it depends how comfortable you are with that. So one of the things we have actually started doing, even though it was different from, my background is money markets, futures trading and investment banking, right? So just no warm hugs anywhere. So it's something called positive focus. So every meeting you start by saying something that you've achieved in the last week that you're just really happy you've knocked off or you've done, and then at the end you talk about something somebody else has done you think is really of value. Like, I just witnessed that, and mate, you're awesome. And they did it at every day, beginning and end, and we now do it for every meeting. And it takes a little bit of time, but your staff love it because they tell each other how good they are, and it's just all. So it surprised me, the Kumbaya stuff.
Did you, ever since you came back from that, did you find in your team that the business is taking a different turn? Or
100%. So interestingly, one of the roles we have, and we've spent a lot of time on, we call guides, but they're customer service people, phone support people. And we came back and presented this, and one of the guys, Andy, who's really good at it, he's on the phone, and he really likes people and he engages well. I came in, it was literally 2 days after we presented it to the team, and he had a whole lot of books he'd got at a library, and he was researching how you empower people. So he picked up on the education and inspiration bit and went, I'm no longer doing service, I'm an empowerment expert. I've got to learn how to do that. So that was all off his own bat. So it's sort of changed everybody's behaviour. And it also, they actually say that after Elite Forum, if you haven't let go a staff member within a few months, you probably haven't worked out what it's about. And while we didn't let somebody go, somebody left naturally. Because it's sort of cult-like, right? I mean, it's meant to be. Culture is made up of the word cult for a good reason. It should feel really comfortable to the people that it works for and really uncomfortable for other people.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yes.
So how much then was the Infusionsoft programming as part of the Elite Forum? Was it it's all business? No.
So what they did set up for me is some meetings sort of before, early and afternoon, and I went early and they said, yeah, we'll happily set up a meeting with whoever you like.
Right.
But it was zero. This is all big stuff.
Okay.
Have you noticed an effect with the types of customers that you've attracted to your business since you've changed your values and mission?
Certainly the type of partners already. So we've had a couple of partners that were keen on us because of our list go, weirdos, not for us, and vice versa, had some that heard about this. So I had loaded it up on LinkedIn and some other places as an exciting thing we'd come up with, like my pretty picture, and I had somebody approach me based on that. So we've never heard of financial advice business. Like, enunciate something like that, we want to talk to you. So certainly with partners it has. And with clients, I'm about to start a list building exercise on Facebook, and doing this stuff makes it so much easier because there's a personality to what we're doing. So it's sort of captured that and enunciated it well. So yeah, so me briefing people, briefing that guy on 99 Designs, like that would probably be unheard of if I didn't know what our vision and our mission was and really be able to enunciate it. So he did a great job.
Yeah. Hi. You're quite transparent about the numbers that you hope to achieve for new clients.
Yeah.
Was there any hesitancy in sharing that with new clients? If you're putting it up on LinkedIn and showing that around, I would be concerned that potential clients might just see themselves as a target.
Yeah, I think it comes down to your purpose and your mission. So because what we're about is empowering people and reaching more people, then it's like when I don't know whether you've ever been approached by Canva or Edgar or any of these apps, and they go, do you want to be part of the beta testing? Yeah, that'd be cool. Like, it's that sort of feel.
Yeah.
It won't be the same for everybody.
So you're underpinning it with the tribe element of it, which makes it work.
And that's the point. So in fact, the numbers, it's a good point. We may change it going forward. We may get rid of the top line, which are the
that's
numbers.
What I was thinking.
We did that initially, but the focus is the tribe numbers. That's what we're really about.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Peter.
No worries.
And thanks for a great quality presentation. It's really good. All right. Next we'll have Barry. Come on up. I'll just read his little blurb, which I wrote. Barry recently attended the Infusionsoft Icon 2015 conference. As one of the thousands of attendees worldwide, I asked him to present to the group on his experience during this huge event, what he saw, what he did, and whether he recommends to other group members to attend next year's conference and why. I'm in trouble reading that. So with that, I'll hand over to Barry, and I'll just get this presentation.
Okay. Just as a bit of background, this is the second one I've attended.